Hi there, this is Miss Rickfelder, and today we're going to be looking at dividing mixed numbers. This is lesson 8 in chapter 4. This is the last lesson in the dividing fractions and mixed numbers section. It starts on textbook page 326 and goes through textbook page 328. And just a little note here down at the bottom, you can see my little text message. It says, remember, if I write it on the screen, you write it in your textbook in relatively the same place. These notes do not go in the composition book. So you should be working directly out of your textbook tonight, or today rather, and let's get started. So you want to make sure that you have your colored pencils, regular pencil, that regular pencil's for all the on your own, your textbook, and a nice quiet location so that you can listen and think about what's being said in the lesson. First, we're going to start here on textbook page 326. So let's go ahead and take a look up here at the top and see if we can get the key concept information. It says dividing mixed numbers is similar to dividing fractions. To divide mixed numbers, so it's going to tell us what we need to do right here. So to divide mixed numbers, you need to write the mixed number as an improper fraction or as improper fractions. And then you're just going to divide as you did with fractions. So really the only additional step with these particular numbers is to change the mixed number into an improper fraction. So let's go ahead and look at example 1. I do want you to write it even though it's already written here. That's okay. I still want you to write it as well. You can just find a blank space, so you could either write it here or you can write it up here. It's up to you. I'm just going to go ahead and write it down here though for now. So the first thing we're going to do is write the original problem, and that's what you want to do as well. So 1 3/4, I'm going to go ahead and write it up here, divided by 2/5. So then our next step is going to be to change this mixed number to an improper fraction. Remember, we do that by multiplying 4 times 1 is 4, this part right here, and then we're going to add the 3. So 4 plus 3 is 7. So then we get the mixed number, which is 7/4. And we want to divide that by 2/5. Now I want you to understand that that second line has to be changing it to a mixed number, to an improper fraction. All right, so you have your original problem up top. Then you have the problem where you changed it to an improper fraction, but notice it's still a division problem. And then the next step is going to be to do your keep, flip, change. So we've got 7/4, that's the keep. We're going to flip the 2/5 and make it 5/2, and we're going to change the sign to multiplication. Now we can look to see if we can cross simplify. There's really nothing to cross simplify here. 5 and 4 and 7 and 2, no common factors. So we're going to multiply straight across. 7 times 5 is 35, and 4 times 2 is 8. So now our last step is going to be to get this back into a mixed number. So we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 8 go into 35? Well, that's going to be 4. So we're just going to go ahead and write a big 4 right there. And 8 times 4 is 32. So we have 33, 34, 35. So we have 3 left over. And 8 is our denominator because we keep that the same. So our final answer here is 4 3/8. Now really quickly, I want you to notice that in these problems, they work from left to right. I don't want you to do this. I want you to work up and down just like I showed you in the example because I'm setting you up to work with equations. All right, let's go ahead and look at the next problem. I've never been a real big fan of them having all this fill in the blank information, so you can go ahead and cross that out. The first thing that you need to do is write the original problem. So you start with 3 3/4 divided by 4/5. Okay, and as you can see, we have our original problem there. And our next step is going to be to change to improper fraction. So we're going to do that by multiplying, and let me just go ahead and do this over to the side for you, just in case you've forgotten how to do that. We want to remember that we're going to get mad. And what that mad reminds us to do is when we have 3 3/4, we are going to multiply 3 times 4. So that gives us 12. And then we're going to add the 3 up here, plus 3. So that gives us 15 over, and then we keep the denominator the same. So that's going to be over 4. So now we know that to change this to an improper fraction, we have 15/4 that can go right here, divided by 4/5. So we're only going to do one process per line. So we don't want to do our keep, flip, change and fixing it into an improper fraction. We don't want to do all that all in one line. So now let's go ahead and look at the next step. Our next step is where we're going to keep, flip, change. So let's go ahead and write the keep, flip, change here. And actually, you know what? Let's not write the keep, flip, change there. Let's go ahead and just do the keep, flip, change first and see where we have some space. So the 15 over 4 is the keep. The flip is 5/4 now. And the change is going to be multiplication, from division to multiplication. So you could even write KFC down here and then a little arrow up there. That way you can still have some room to work the problem out. 4 and 5 we can't reduce, 15 and 4 we can't reduce, so we're just going to multiply straight across. So on the bottom, 4 times 4 is 16, and 15 times 5 I'm going to need a little help with. So I'm going to go ahead and multiply that off to the side. 5, 6, 7, so you get 75, okay? And so now to turn this back into a mixed number, we need to figure out how many times 16 goes into 75. So we can look at that and I can start guessing like 16 times 4 maybe. So that's, let's see, 64. Let's try 16 times 5. Okay, so as you can see, 16 times 5 gave us 80, so that's too much. And 16 times 4 gives us 64. So we know our answer is going to have 4. And then to get from 64 to 75, if it was 64 to 74, it would be 10. But since it's 75, it's actually 11/16. So our final answer here should be 4 11/16. All right, you want to go ahead and pause the video and do problems A, B, and C now. All right, so you wanted to go ahead and write the original problem first. Then your next step is going to be to change to an improper fraction. So 8 times 2 is 16, 17, 18, 19. So this line should say 19 over 8 divided by 1/4. And then we're going to go ahead and do our keep flip change. So we have 19 over 8 times 4 over 1. Now we want to look to see if we can cross simplify. 19 and 1 means we can't do anything because it's 1 and done. But 4 and 8, we can divide 4 out of both of those. So 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So now we can go ahead and multiply straight across, and we get 19 times 1 is 19, and 2 times 1 is 2. And now we need to change it back into a mixed number. So we say, how many times does 2 go into 19? Well, that's going to be 9, because 9 times 2 is 18. We have 1 left over to get to that 19 and a half. So our final answer for this first problem is going to be 9 1/2. For B, you want to start by writing the original problem. So we've done that here. Then you're going to want to go ahead and write it into an improper fraction. Change that 2 1/2 to an improper. Sorry, I just wanted to check to see what color I used. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5. So 5 over 2 divided by 3/7. And now we're going to do our keep flip change. So we've got 5 over 2 times 7 over 3. We can't do anything with 5 and 3. We can't do anything with 7 and 2. So now we're just going to multiply straight across. 5 times 7 is 35, and 3 times 2 is 6. And now we need to change that back into a mixed number. So we know 6 times 6 is 36. So the whole number is actually going to be 5. 6 times 5 is 30. And then we have 5 left over to get to that 35. And then we have 6 as our denominator. So 5 and 5/6 is the answer you should have gotten for B. All right, and for C, you should start with the original problem. Then we're going to go ahead and turn this into an improper fraction. 8 times 5 is 40, plus 5 gives us 45 over 8. Remember, we always keep that denominator the same. Since we changed this into an improper fraction, we're going to leave the rest of the problem the same, so we're just going to copy that divided by 3/4 again. So we have 45/8 divided by 3/4. On the next line, we're going to do our keep flip change, which, by the way, when I say keep flip change, I mean the multiply by the reciprocal. So that's what we learned in that first lesson. So now we have 45/8 times 4/3. So now we do have some cross simplifying we can do. So right away we can see that 4 and 8, we can divide 4 out of both of those. So that should be pretty easy. 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 8 divided by 4 is 2. So then, before we discount the 3 and 45, though, you want to think 15 plus 15 is 30 plus another 15 is 45. So 3 and 45 can also be cross-simplified. 3 divided by 3 is 1, and 45 divided by 3 is 15. And now you can just multiply straight across to get your answer. 15 times 1 is 15, over 2 times 1 is 2. Then we need to change it back into a mixed number. So we ask ourselves, how many times does 2 go into 15? That's going to be 7. 7 times 2 is 14, so we have 1 left over. Half. So just so you can see that up here, that's how we get the 1 goes here, the 2 goes here, and the 7 goes here. I know I keep explaining it for all the problems. I just wanted to make sure that I showed you visually what it looked like as well. So let's go ahead and move on. Textbook page 327. This is dividing a mixed number by, dividing by a mixed number rather. So now it says to divide a mixed number by another mixed number, you want to change both mixed numbers to improper fractions, and remember to simplify before you multiply. So that's that cross simplifying that I've been talking about. All right, so off to the side here, I'd like you to go ahead and write the 5 1/2 divided by 2 1/2 because that's your original problem. Then we're going to go ahead and convert both of these into improper fractions, but leave them as a division problem first. So 5 times 2 is 10, plus 1 is 11, so we get 11 over 2, divided by, remember leave that as a division because we only want to process one thing per line. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2. And then on this next line, we're going to multiply by the reciprocal, or keep flip change as you're used to hearing. So now we have 11 over 2, which is the keep, divided by 2 over, not divided by, sorry about that, multiplied by 2 over 5. And then we can cross simplify the 2's. We get 1 and 1 here. So 11 times 1 is 11, and 1 times 5 is 5. Now I'm just going to have to move down here because I ran out of space. There we go. Actually, I just shrunk it down a little bit so that I had a little bit more space to write. All right, so then I say, how many times does 5 go into 11? Well, 5 times 2 is going to give me 10, so I know it's going to be 2. I have 1 left over, and remember, you leave your denominator as the 5 that it was. So your answer here for this one is going to be 2 1/5, and you just want to double check over here, and they also got 2 1/5. So let's go ahead and check out example 2. It does say stop and reflect. How is dividing two mixed numbers similar to dividing two fractions? Well, you can think about that, and basically it's the same thing. You just have the added step of turning them into an improper fraction first. So again, remember, I'm not really a fan of the already pre-set up stuff. So let's go ahead and off to the side here, you want to start with your original problem. 4 2/3 divided by 1 3/4. I keep writing original and then improper and then keep flip change because I want to remind you that I need all 3 lines for every single problem. But you don't have to write the original, the keep flip change, and the improper part. You can just do the work on each line. So now let's go ahead and turn them into improper fractions. So 4 times 3 is 12, plus 2 is 14. So we get 14 over 3 divided by 4 times 1 is 4, 5, 6, 7 over 4. And then on our next line, we're going to do our keep flip change. And so the keep portion is going to be that 14 over 3. The flip is the 7 over 4 is now going to become 4 over 7. And the change is where you change the division sign to multiplication. 3 and 4, I can't cross simplify at all, but 7 and 14, I can divide 7 out of both of those. 7 divided by 7 is 1, 14 divided by 7 is 2. So now I'm going to be left with 2 times 4 is 8, and 3 times 1 is 3. And I ask myself, how many times does 3 go into 8? It's going to be 2 whole times because 3 times 2 is 6. Then we have 2 left over, and 3 is our denominator. So you should have come up with an answer of 2 2/3 here. So now I want you to pause the video and go ahead and try D, E, and F on your own. Okay, so as you can see here, I've written the original problem. I expect you to do the same. Then the second line is going to be turning it into an improper fraction. 5 times 4 is 20, plus 1 is 21, and we have 21/5 divided by 3 times 2 is 6, plus 1 is 7/3. Now we can do our keep flip change, 21/5 times 3 over 7. The 7 and the 21 can both cross simplify. We can divide 7 out of both, so we get 1 here and 3 up top. So now we have our answer here, which is going to be 3 times 3 is 9, and 5 times 1 is 5. And then we need to change that back into a mixed number. 5 goes into 9 only one whole time. I have 4 left over because 5 times 1 is 5. And then we have to do 6, 7, 8, 9. So we get 4 left over and then 5. So our answer here should be 1 4/5. Okay, so as you can see here, I went ahead and wrote the original problem. So now when we're changing this 2 1/2 into an improper fraction, at the same time we can go ahead and change 8 into 8 over 1 so that we're just dealing with fractions. 8 over 1 divided by 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 5 over 2. And now we're going to do the keep flip change. So we're going to do 8 over 1 times 2/5. 5 and 8 we can't cross simplify, 2 and 1 we can't cross simplify, so 8 times 2 is 16, 1 times 5 is 5, and then remember back into a mixed number, 5 times 3 gives us 15, which means we have 1 left over to get to 16, and 5 is our denominator. So your final answer here should be 3 1/5. Make sure that you're checking your work and you're correcting them if yours is any different. Right, so now we have 1 5/9 divided by 2 1/3. So 1 5/9 we're going to change to an improper fraction. 9 times 1 is 9, plus 5 gives us 14/9 divided by 2 times 3 is 6, plus 1 is 7/3. Now we're going to keep flip change, so we have 14/9 times 3/7. And I can see already here that I'm actually going to be able to cross simplify all four numbers. So I'm going to divide 7 out here. So 7 divided by 7 is 1. 14 divided by 7 is 2. I'm going to divide out 3 here because 3 divided by 3 is 1. And 9 divided by 3 is 3. So now we're going to go ahead and do 2 times 1 is 2. And 3 times 1 is 3. So our final answer here is actually 2/3. So it's not a mixed number. All right, we're in the home stretch now here. We're looking at example 5 on textbook page 328. Remember, this is a word problem, so these are typically the heavier weighted problems on your tests and quizzes. All right, so here for example 5, it says the average adult male giant panda weighs about 1.5 times as much as the average adult female. If the average weight of the male giant panda is 330 pounds, how much does the average female giant panda weigh? So to find the average weight, you need to solve the equation 330 divided by 1 1/5. So I'm not going to have you rewrite this problem. I just want to go ahead and have you follow along. So the first thing that they did here is write 330 over 1 divided by 6/5. Then they did the keep flip change, 330 over 1 times 5/6. They cross simplified here. They divided both out by 6. So they got 55 on top and 1 on the bottom. And then the final answer that they came up with was 275. So notice here in their final answer, it says that the average female giant panda weighs about 275 pounds. So they have their units with that as well. All right, congrats, you have made it to the end. You want to go ahead and work on numbers 1 through 5 and show all of your steps for all 5 problems. So if you have to add line stickies so that you can do 4 and 5 and you have enough room to show all your steps, please feel free to do so. And it says the only time success comes before work is in the dictionary. So I will see you in class.